Hello, loved ones. You know, I'm in the middle of editing a podcast that is, I don't know if I want to call it a week past due or what, but I had recorded one like four different times and just was not satisfied with it. I ended up not releasing one last week. I mean, that's not exactly I've been known to do that. Let's just put it that way. So, anyway, I've got one and I'm good with it, but I'm in the middle of editing it. But I was at a part, I had to take off and I had to take my dad to the airport and stuff like that, whatever. So, anyway, I stopped in the middle of editing. And I'm sitting down now to finish editing this so that I can then put it out tonight. Well, I was in a part of this episode where I was basically talking about your state of being. Like when we are when we're in active addiction and we have that realization, that aha moment where we say, "Wow, I really want to get sober." That's good on the surface, except we know that when we admit that we want something, it is us admitting that it doesn't exist in our reality, that we don't have it. So instead of wanting sobriety, we need to just be sober. And then, of course, that's the kind of thing you need to keep to yourself, because that's when people around you will be like, yeah, well, the thing about that is that you're not sober. Okay, fine. In the current conditions, you're correct. That's why I usually tell people, when you're trying to create something in your reality, when you're trying to to manifest a new reality, keep that to yourself. Which, that's nothing new. A lot of your self-help, manifestation, law of attraction, and or assumption gurus will tell you that very thing. And I think they're absolutely right. Keep that to yourself. Right? And then I went further in that most of the time, and I was in the podcast episode, I'm referring to getting sober. A lot of times addicts will attach conditions to it. Well, I'm going to get sober when XYZ happens. Or I want to get sober, but I've got to whatever. Just various things have got to happen before that can happen, right? And there's always conditions attached to it. Or I would like to get sober, but this has to happen first. And it's like, well, and this applies to sobriety. It applies to anything. Anything you want to manifest in your life. Do not attach conditions to it. Just don't do that. Because for one, either way, like they say, whether you say you can or you can't, either way, you're absolutely correct. And that's also true. But if you attach conditions to your goal, it's like, I'm going to achieve this when this other thing happens. Right? I'm going to get sober when I've got a stable place to stay and I can ride it out or whatever. Those are things that you will hear an addict say. Well, you're probably never going to have a stable place to stay when you are in active addiction. Just saying. It's possible, sure. But stop. But that's true for anything. Right? You could say, I want to be a poet. Well, guess what? You just admitted that you're not. When really all you got to do is start saying, I am a poet. And then start being a poet. Start writing poetry. Start putting it out there. Don't worry about how things are going to happen. If you want to make money doing it, okay, just start being it. It's really that simple. It really is. People think that there's some magic pill or something that you've got to do. All you've got to do is start doing it. Just be it. Be it. Don't want it. Be it. Like I said, I was referring to sobriety in the podcast, but this, like I said, this applies to anything. Stop establishing or stop attaching conditions to it. For example, the poet. Well, I'll be a poet when this happens. Well, congratulations. You just made it so that you cannot be a poet until that happens. Oh, and you want that to happen, so you just admitted that that's not happening because why? Because you want it. Anything that we want is us admitting that we don't have. And you've got to get outside of this third dimensional, linear way of looking at things. Time, space, time, distance, all that stuff is just a construct that we use in this third dimensional reality that we live in. But we are spiritual beings that are outside of time, space, and distance. We're simply driving these avatars for the sake of having an experience. I think also for the sake of learning this lesson of everything is now. Right now. It's kind of like, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There's only now. Because when tomorrow comes, guess what? It's going to be now. Now is now. Tomorrow is now. Everything is now. So we don't, I'm gonna anything. We just, I am. In all our spiritual teachings, just about every philosophy ever known to man, it's always, I am. I am sober. Keep that to yourself because, yeah, you're going to have those smart asses that are going to remind you, well, guess what, dude? No, you're not. All right? In this linear, third dimensional way of looking at things, you're right. However, just don't even go there. Just don't even go there. I am now happy, healthy, wealthy, and free. Right now. Anyway, I was just kind of thinking about that, and I wish I'd elaborated on it a little more. But here we go. Just throw it on YouTube. I love you guys, and I'm reading this, Stalking the Wild Pendulum by Itzhak Mentov. I've done quite a bit of research on Itzhak Mentov, but I've never actually read his books, which, that's probably what I should have done first. But whatever, I was reading other things, so while I was trying to wrap up some other things I was reading, I was also doing some research into that. And I am not very far into this, but it's cool. But like he says in the introduction, he pretty much got, like, I'm not a science guy, I'm a spiritual guy, whatever. So, hey, you're going to have to just tough it out for the first 4 chapters. And so far, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. However, I do very much appreciate the fact that when you explain spiritual things to me, you can back it with science. You can, and I'm not a science guy. But when you're trying to warm me up to a new concept or whatever, if you can show me how it works, right? It's like with the whole thing I was just talking about, with the whole I am now. Remember, you are an eternal soul. This life, this avatar, it's very temporary. It's not even a flash. We're here for an experience or to learn something, or all of the above. So anyway, there we go. Loved ones, I am going to get back to editing this podcast. I should have a cup of tea ready for me, by the way. And then I'm going to really get on it and get this thing done. There's that. Get this thing done and get it out. I'm probably going to go ahead and post this on YouTube right now. I love you. I really do. I just want us to all have an amazing life. Yeah. We can't save the world. Not even trying to. Nope. Can't do it. But we can save our individual selves. And that's what we're going to do. So the podcast, if you're not familiar, is My Sober Addiction. I'm also on Substack at Matt Stevens. I would appreciate subscriptions. Please subscribe to this video, this YouTube channel, and give me a like and all that good stuff. And we'll have some fun. Yeah. Toodaloo, buckaroo.